Yeah, love helping people find jobs. I mean, the recruiting side of my agency is a lot of fun. I mean, we do it a lot differently than most. We're not headhunters. We do a very low cost retained program where the client pays us in advance. It is very low cost for them, and we run. We're taking the place of HR and owners who just don't have the time to do it. They don't have the funneling expertise that we have because we grab videos from candidates and all that stuff. But because make everything a lot more efficient. But when we dig into the job seeker, boy, this is it's a tough conversation to have. I mean, they are, they are listening to the job seeker has two basic problems right now, right? So there's this overwhelming supply of candidates coming into jobs, especially if it's remote. If it's a remote position in the United States with any kind of decent pay scale, oh my gosh, you're going to get 50 to 100 applications a day. But even on local jobs right now, the market is tough for job seekers, so you're getting a lot. The one-click apply thing that you have on, Indeed, which I think is the best engine out there, hands down, for finding talent. But everybody has that now. One-click apply. It just makes it so easy for the job seeker to apply, which then puts pressure on the employers, right? Because the employers are getting overrun with people, and most of whom aren't qualified for the position, whether really aren't qualified or from the employer's point of view aren't qualified. Doesn't really matter. From the employer's perspective, they're not qualified. So they're getting overrun. So they're having to try to scramble and figure out ways to funnel that applicant count, right? So, obviously my background's business development, sales, and obviously marketing with email and stuff like that. So I kind of come at it for job seekers with a very, very different approach. I mean, they've got two things they've got the volume of candidates that they're competing against as one problem, right? And employers getting overrun with applications. That's part of the problem. But the other thing is just the history of finding a job in the United States and what you need to do now to separate yourself and really do things are just so different. I mean, the history says you apply to a job and you wait for human resources or somebody or hiring manager to contact you. And that's fine, but you're a needle in a haystack. So that by itself isn't sufficient, right? So, the other problem with the job seeker is they listen to the gurus out there in recruiting and HR online and YouTube, who all have good intentions. They're all very well intended, but they're coming at it from an HR recruiter perspective. I want the job seeker to turn that on its head, right? I want them to think like a marketing person or like a business owner. They have to think about it from a completely different angle. Completely. Yeah. So I have 5 things that I tell job seekers they need to do to find a job, right? So you can sit there and you can apply and you can beef up your resume and you can work on your interview skills and all that stuff, but that doesn't get you in front of the people that are going to make the difference in you getting hired, right? Because it all is based upon the idea that you're being screened and going through the employer funneling process on the front end of HR, which, the problem is that in bigger companies, for sure, you have to do that. Like, you're going to have to go through their process, but you can help yourself by getting in front of the right people in the company, kind of like we do from business development perspective. We go top down if we can. So I want to see job seekers do more outreach, do more follow-up, and go from the top down. Go find the right contacts in the company. There's a million different ways to do it. Yeah, so fine. Five things job seekers can do to help themselves find a job, right? Fast. First of all, they have to be prepared to answer one question for any layer of people they're going to interview within the company, right? For the owners, they need to be prepared. The most important question is undoubtedly how are you going to make or save me money? That's it. I mean, if you're talking for-profit companies, private companies, that's the only question that really matters. How are you going to make or save the company money? That's the answer to the question for any owner. And we'll come back to that when we talk about video, but you got to be able to answer that question. Does that matter as much when you're talking to HR or even a hiring manager or a director manager or a VP? No, not as much, but it's still important, right? Yeah, so there's no job, and what I mean by that, good question. What I mean by that is there's no job if you don't make or save the company money. Period. Every job, from reception, janitorial, person, cleaning person, person who fills the soda machine, all the way up to the C-level executives, they either make or save the company money. Every job. If you don't do one of those two things, you don't. There's no job. And that part of it, from a business owner and entrepreneurial perspective, job seekers have to understand that. And then once they understand that, once that clicks in their head, and they're getting better about it because they're doing more freelance and gig stuff and side stuff, so they're starting to understand more in all levels of types of jobs. And professionals, they're starting to understand what it means to own a business and what it means from end to, beginning to end. So they got to be able to answer that question for owners. Now, how do you change that question when you're talking to either HR or a VP, director, manager? If you're talking to HR, it comes down to they want your resume to answer a different question, but they want your resume to basically be that you have the experience and have moved and scaled within companies, you have moved up or been successful within companies for the very specific thing that they are looking to hire, right? So that part is hard, excuse me, and probably the hardest because job seekers, if you don't have the experience or the background in certain companies and going into HR on the front end, there's nothing you can do to change their minds. That part is going to be hard. So now you've got to go around them, which we'll come back to that, right? But that's your biggest problem on the front end with HR. They're looking at your resume. They don't care. At the end of the day, they really don't. You don't move them if you make or save the company money or you answer that question. You don't move them with your personality necessarily all that much. What they're delivering to hiring managers is a resume, and that resume has to answer a question. What on your resume shows or says that you have the experience and the background specific to that job, dealing with maybe specific customers and clients, that shows that you are a sure bet to not fail. And they want that on the resume because that's the only thing they have. And so that's probably the hardest part, right? And again, I want them to go around. When it comes to hiring managers and VPs, directors, managers that you're going to interview with, as a job seeker, you make or save the company money as part of it, but how are you going to make them look good, right? That's what you have to do. You have to be successful and make them look good. They hired the right person. That's a quiver, that's an arrow in their quiver. That's checking a box. They hired someone that was successful, right? That to them is, and so how are you going to be successful in that role? You've got to answer that question. What in your experience or your background and your history is evidence that you are going to be a success in that role? And that's the question you have to answer. So for each layer of person you might interview with in a company, and again, it depends between enterprise, mid-market, and small business. It all depends, because in a lot of small business, you're going to interview with an owner. You have to be able to answer one single question for each of those people. That's it. The rest of the stuff they ask is all related to that, to some degree, lesser or greater. Okay? Second tip I would give to job seekers: follow-up. Got to do follow-up. Right, and this goes to number 3, cold outreach. So you got to get on a data system to go find the owners and or VPs, directors, managers for the department that you are trying to get a job in, and you need to reach out to them. Right, if you apply to a job, follow up with those people. Yes, HR is your front line, but it's top down. Go find those people, get in front of them. Right, find the data source. Let's say Zoom Info or any number of the competitors that they have. Build a list, right, for cold outreach, but go in, find the people in the companies that you reach out to, connect with them, reach out to them via email or LinkedIn. You could call too. Calling's going to be harder because reaching them's tough, right? That business development 101 in 2023, getting them on the phone is going to be hard. But in small business, it can work. In small business, it can work, especially if you're going after owners, because you can find certain pieces of information in there to get to them, right? So anyway, follow up to the companies you apply to. Email and LinkedIn most likely going to be the things that you would use. And then if you really need to, do cold outreach. Build a list. Start doing cold outreach. You can reach out to email and LinkedIn. You can reach out to 100 to 200 a day. Start doing cold outreach. Answer the question. Get to the owners, especially in small business and even mid-market. Answer the question. How are you going to make or save that company money? You answer that question, you got yourself an opportunity. You're going to get an interview. Okay. But cold outreach, I would do email and LinkedIn. Phone, if you're sales or business development, you certainly should be able to use the phone. Your voice should be powerful. You may have to leave a lot of voicemails, but I'd incorporate it in there too. Yeah. So follow up and cold outreach. Those are the two things. Follow up on your applications, and then cold outreach are 2 and 3. Fourth thing, video introduction. Absolutely the game changer. Video introduction. Introduce yourself by video, record it, put it in every communication that you do. It makes all the difference in the world for hiring managers and owners. Does not have as much impact for HR because they're not moved by that. They're moved by resume. But the other ones are going to be more moved by, I know it when I see it, and they're looking for personality, style, confidence, obviously experience, background, explaining to them how you are going to make or save the company money, how you are going to be a success, what in your experience shows that you are going to be a success in that role, right? Those things are what you have to communicate. And the video introduction is a way for you to personalize that. Do it with emotion, with conviction. Do a video, do it on Loom, do it on Vimeo. They're free. There's no reason not to be able to do that. And get that on every piece of communication that you do in your job seeking process. So that's number 4. That's the game changer. I mean, that's what we do at our agency that changes everything for clients. We get video from every candidate that we can. We get video introduction from every candidate. It streamlines the entire process. It's a complete game changer. Right? And then 5th thing, start thinking like a business owner and create your own job. I mean, I think without delving into the socio-political, socio-economic rabbit hole, I think that the concepts that people have of being an employee for a single employer is a very dated concept. It doesn't apply in the 21st century like it did in the 20th. It's almost like we're circling back to the beginning. The guys waiting at the factory gates, right, to get in, to get a job for a day, they get paid for the day, and they're done. They may not have a job tomorrow. Start thinking like a business owner. Start thinking gig, freelance, contract work. Reach out to them. Say, hey, give me a chance. 1 month, 2 months. Give me 60 days. I'll prove to you I'm worth it to you. Go work for them as a contractor. Go work for 60 days. Work part-time for them for 60 days. Prove to them that you're going to make or save that company money. Prove to them you are going to be a success. Think like a business owner. Fractional work. Go work for 2 employers. Go work for 3 employers. Go work for 4. Right? Depending on what you do. Again, every job is different. There's some jobs that are full-time. There's no way around it. And the companies need that. And they should, right? But that doesn't mean every job is. I run into all kinds of clients that I deal with, especially in business to business, where the jobs are not necessarily, there's things they don't want to take a huge risk. They don't want to hire you as a W-2 full-timer right away. They don't want to take that risk. And they can find people who are willing to work on a contract basis, right? And you can make more money that way. So you've got to put yourself out there and do that. Maybe it's starting your own business, doing the same thing, depending upon what you do, because that's the entry point for a lot of jobs, a lot of permanent opportunity. You start your own business and you start doing work for clients, and you end up working for them on a freelance basis. Then you work as a contractor. Then you're half-time. Then all of a sudden you're so valuable, you're full-time. Right? Create your own job. That's the 5th thing. At the end of the day, be indispensable to your employer. Quit looking to, again, the government or the employer, putting it all on them. Be indispensable. If you're indispensable, they won't fire you. Almost never. Occasionally, it happens, I suppose, when the owners really have very little say. Sometimes in the way things happen on enterprise level companies, you see, the owners don't have a say on a one-to-one level. They're letting go of people in mass. Recent layoffs we've seen. They're laying off people in mass for no reason other than they just gotta dive down expenditure, and they're not looking at the individual people that they keep or let go of. Okay, that's a different conversation. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is when the owner knows who you are in the company and you're indispensable, there's no way you're losing your job. No chance. Not unless something else is happening in there with a director or manager or VP that is causing interference and or something happens, totally separate conversation. But I'm talking about if you do the job and you do it well, you're not going anywhere. You're going to keep that job, right? And so, thinking like a business owner, thinking like a freelancer, that is that create your own job, that fifth tip, that mentality. I really want to see that out of job seekers more. But that goes against the grain in the history of the last, call it all, 50 to 75, almost 100 years, where, non-business owners all work, have full-time jobs. They work a full-time job, and that's the only way that some people think, and the only way that some, just some in our society, that's just the way that they think, and that's the way that they believe that the society should be set up. But that's not the reality of the 21st century, especially now. Things have changed, and job seekers are unfortunately have to change their mindset. They have to do different things. You got to be more aggressive. Like I said, those 5 tips are the things that I would look at. Be more, just be more willing to take more risk, but ask for more money per hour, or per day, or per week, or per month, right? If you're going to be taking on more of the risk, you can ask for more pay because you're putting less risk on the W-2 employment with the employer. But anyway, yeah, so there's all kinds of opportunities out there, but it is hard for the job seeker in the traditional sense because going back to the beginning, the employers are being overwhelmed with applications, and they don't have the right process to funnel that talent coming through. And they just don't know what to do. They're stuck, right? So